Do you know the average American spends more than 6 hours a day staring at screens, but less than 6 minutes looking inside their own mind? Pause. Let that sink in. 6 hours consumed by the outside world, news, social media, endless chatter, but almost no time to tend to the world within, the place where peace or chaos is born. Welcome to Mindfulness. This space was created not just as a channel, but as a reminder. Our homes, our families, and our relationships are built upon the words we speak and the silences we allow. If language is the food of connection, then mindful language is what keeps a family warm, safe, and alive. Think about this. Words can be like medicine, but they can also be like poison. We don't notice it most of the time because we're moving too fast. A casual "you never listen," tossed in frustration, can stay in someone's heart for years. A soft "I'm here for you," whispered at the right moment, can heal pain no therapy ever touched. Thich Nhat Hanh, the beloved Vietnamese Zen master who brought mindfulness to millions in America, once said, "Words can travel across thousands of miles. They can either heal or destroy." When I first read that, I froze, because I realized the language I used at home was often automatic, impatient, even careless. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone, but I also wasn't aware of the hidden enemy inside me, the restless, reactive mind that speaks before it listens. And this is where the shock comes in. The real danger to a peaceful home is not the bills, the busy schedules, or even disagreements. It's the unconscious words that slip out when our mind is racing. It's like having a wild horse inside your head, dragging you toward anger or irritation before you even realize it. I remember one evening when my daughter spilled a glass of milk on the table. The words almost jumped out of my mouth. "How many times have I told you to be careful?" But something stopped me. A tiny pause, a memory of Thich Nhat Hanh teaching that every breath is a chance to begin anew. I took a breath, and instead of scolding, I said softly, "It's okay. Let's clean it together." That one moment shifted the energy of the entire evening. Instead of tears, there was laughter. Instead of shame, there was connection. And I realized something. Mindful language is not about being perfect. It's about being present. American mindfulness teachers like Jon Kabat-Zinn, Jack Kornfield, and Sharon Salzberg often remind us that awareness is not complicated. It's simply choosing to notice what's happening before reacting. The Buddha himself taught that right speech is part of the Eightfold Path, not because it makes us good people, but because it frees us from the chains of regret and misunderstanding. So here's the invitation of this opening. What if we looked at our family as the garden of our life? Every word is a seed. Do we plant seeds of kindness, patience, and love? Or do we scatter seeds of blame, sarcasm, and neglect? The truth is, no home is perfect. We all lose our temper. We all say things we wish we could take back. But if we can pause, breathe, and choose our words with care, even just once a day, we begin to transform our family atmosphere. A mindful family doesn't mean there's no conflict. It means there's enough compassion to hold the conflict without breaking. Imagine stepping into your home tonight. Instead of tension, you feel warmth. Instead of sharp words, you hear laughter. Instead of silence filled with distance, there is silence filled with peace. That's not fantasy. That's the power of mindful speech. And it all begins with one breath, one pause, one word spoken with love. The hidden enemy isn't your job. It's not money. It's not even the people you argue with. The real enemy is inside, the restless mind that never stops talking. Have you ever noticed how exhausting it is to live with your own thoughts? You're sitting at the dinner table, but instead of listening to your child's story about school, your mind is replaying an argument from yesterday. Or you're lying in bed next to your partner, yet your thoughts are already racing toward tomorrow's deadlines. The body is here, but the mind is everywhere else. It's like having a wild horse inside your head, dragging you from memory to worry, from judgment to anger. No wonder our words come out sharp. The enemy isn't our loved ones. It's the untrained horse running wild inside us. Thich Nhat Hanh often taught that our words are a mirror of our state of mind. If we are restless, our language becomes restless. If we are calm, our language becomes healing. He compared the mind to muddy water. Shake it and it becomes cloudy, but let it rest and the water clears on its own. The same is true for speech. When our mind is stormy, our words become weapons. When our mind is still, our words become shelter. Science agrees. Researchers at Harvard found that nearly 47% of the time, people are not paying attention to what they're doing. They're lost in thought. And here's the kicker. That mental wandering is directly linked to unhappiness. In other words, the enemy is not our circumstances. It's the endless chatter in our head. I remember one night when my son asked me to play. I said later because I was too caught up in emails and deadlines. But later never came. The next morning, when I saw the disappointed look on his face, I realized it wasn't the work that robbed me of connection. It was my restless mind convincing me that just 5 more minutes of checking messages was more important than the living, breathing child in front of me. American meditation teacher Jack Kornfield tells a story of a father who never yelled at his children, but his silence was cold and sharp. He wasn't violent with words, but his distracted, absent presence created wounds just the same. This shows us something powerful. The enemy doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers in the form of distraction, detachment, or avoidance. The Buddha taught about Mara, the demon who tempted him under the Bodhi tree. But modern Mara doesn't always come as fear or temptation. It often comes as constant thinking. The restless voice saying, "You're not enough. They're not enough. There's not enough time." And if we don't recognize it, we end up speaking from that place of scarcity and irritation. But here's the good news. When we can name the enemy, we begin to disarm it. Every time we notice, my mind is racing, we've already taken back some power. Thich Nhat Hanh would smile and say, "Hello, my little habit energy. I see you." Just that recognition is the beginning of peace. Imagine if, instead of letting the wild horse drag us, we learn to hold the reins. Imagine walking into your living room after a stressful day, and before snapping at your spouse or child, you pause, breathe, and choose silence. Or a gentle word. That small act is revolutionary. It's how the hidden enemy loses its grip. Because the real battlefield is not outside in the world. The real battlefield is inside, in the space between thought and speech. And every time we choose awareness, we win. There's always a moment in life when the ground beneath us feels shaky. For some people, it's a health scare. For others, it's the breakdown of a marriage, or the loneliness of sitting in a room full of family and still feeling unseen. For me, it was stress that seemed endless, a constant hum in the background of everything I did. I wasn't collapsing, but I wasn't living either. On the surface, my life looked fine. I had work, I had family, I had goals. But inside, it was like standing in the middle of Times Square at rush hour, thoughts flashing like billboards, noise everywhere, no silence, no rest. I was snapping at people I loved, not because I hated them, but because I was drowning in my own mind. And here's the truth. I thought that was normal. In America, we wear busyness like a badge of honor. If you're tired, it means you're working hard. If you're stressed, it means you're ambitious. If your family dinner is interrupted by texts and emails, well, that's just life. But at some point, I realized I was giving the best of myself to my deadlines and leaving the leftovers for the people I loved most. That was the moment the cracks began to show. One evening, after another argument that ended with silence so heavy it felt like punishment, I sat alone in the kitchen. My head was buzzing with guilt, frustration, and a quiet voice saying, "Something has to change." That voice was the beginning of the turning point. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't a thunderbolt from the sky. It was more like stumbling into something unexpected. I remember scrolling through a bookstore shelf and seeing a slim book by Thich Nhat Hanh called Peace is Every Step. The title alone stopped me. How could peace be in every step when my steps felt more like running on a treadmill? But I picked it up. Reading that book was like someone opening a window in a stuffy room. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote with such simplicity, such clarity, that it felt as if he was speaking directly to me. When you plant lettuce, if it does not grow well, you don't blame the lettuce. You look for reasons. Maybe it needs more water or less sun. You never blame the lettuce. Yet if we have problems with our friends or family, we blame the other person. But if we know how to take care of them, they will grow well. I closed the book and cried, because I realized I had been blaming the lettuce in my life. My kids for being noisy, my partner for not understanding, my job for being demanding. I had never paused to consider that maybe I wasn't watering the garden of my family with kindness, attention, and mindful words. That realization was a turning point. But change didn't come from reading alone. Change came from practice. At first, I thought mindfulness was boring. Sitting still with my eyes closed, breathing, that felt impossible for someone like me whose mind was always racing. But then one evening, I decided to try a simple practice from Jon Kabat-Zinn, the American pioneer of mindfulness-based stress reduction. He said, "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." So I sat, I breathed, and for a few seconds, just a few, I noticed something I hadn't felt in years: silence inside my own head. It didn't last long, but it was enough to make me curious. That curiosity pulled me back to the cushion, again and again. Some days were frustrating, filled with restlessness. Other days, I felt a calm so sweet it brought tears to my eyes. Slowly, I began to notice something. My words at home were changing. Instead of snapping, I paused. Instead of criticizing, I listened. Instead of rushing through conversations, I found myself really hearing the laughter, the sadness, the small details in my family's voices. The turning point was not just inside me, it was rippling outward. My home began to feel less like a battlefield and more like a refuge. Sharon Salzberg, one of America's great meditation teachers, talks about beginning again. Every breath is a chance to begin again. That teaching saved me. Because in the past, when I made mistakes with my words, when I yelled or shut down, I carried guilt for days. But mindfulness taught me, every breath is a reset button. Every moment is a chance to choose differently. One night, after an especially stressful day, my partner and I argued about something small. Normally, that would have turned into hours of cold silence. But this time, I paused, breathed, and said, "I don't want to fight. Can we start over?" Those words didn't erase the problem, but they opened the door to connection. We sat in silence for a while, then laughed about how silly the argument was. That was mindfulness in action. The Buddha once said, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." At that turning point in my life, I began to understand what he meant. I realized my family didn't need me to be perfect. They didn't need eloquence or wisdom. They just needed me to be present, to speak words that carried care instead of judgment. Here's the thing. The turning point doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't require a retreat in the mountains or months of silence. Sometimes it's as small as closing your eyes for 3 breaths before you respond to your child. Sometimes it's reading a line from a teacher like Thich Nhat Hanh or Jack Kornfield and letting it sink in. Sometimes it's noticing the disappointment in your partner's eyes and choosing to soften instead of harden. Every turning point begins with awareness. Awareness that the way we've been speaking, living, reacting is not the way we want to continue. That awareness is not shame, it's freedom. It's the moment we realize we are not trapped in the old patterns of our mind. We can choose differently. And when we choose differently, the atmosphere of our entire home begins to shift. Our children learn from us, not from what we say about mindfulness, but from how we embody it. Our partners feel the difference in the softness of our voice, the patience in our listening, the love behind our words. The turning point is not about becoming a saint. it's about becoming real. It's about realizing that the most powerful transformation begins not in the world outside, but in the language we use with those closest to us. Imagine if every American household had this turning point. Imagine families where parents don't just shout across the room, but listen. Where kids grow up hearing not just rules and demands, but also encouragement and love. Where silence isn't punishment, but peace. That vision may sound idealistic, but I've seen it. I've felt it. And I believe it's possible, one mindful word at a time. That is the promise of mindfulness. That is the gift of the turning point. Every great change in history has come with a secret weapon. Sometimes it's a discovery, sometimes it's a movement, sometimes it's a tool that shifts the way people see the world. For me, and for countless families around the globe, the secret weapon is mindfulness. And here's the surprising part. This isn't something we need to buy, earn, or borrow. It's not locked away in monasteries or hidden in ancient scriptures. It's already inside us, right now. The only challenge is remembering to use it. Think about it. If our mind is like a restless wild horse, then mindfulness is the rope, the anchor, the way to gently guide it home. Thich Nhat Hanh called mindfulness the energy of being aware of what is happening in the present moment. Simple words, but revolutionary when applied in our daily family life. Let's make it practical. Mindfulness has many expressions, but in the context of family and language, I've found 3 keys that act like our secret weapons. Simple enough to remember, powerful enough to transform. 1. Breath is the anchor. One evening, I was rushing to get dinner ready. My daughter was asking me questions, my phone was buzzing with messages, and my mind was juggling 100 things. I could feel the tension rising, the sharp words forming on my tongue. Then I remembered Thich Nhat Hanh's most famous practice. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. So I stopped. 1 breath. In, out. My daughter was still talking, the phone was still buzzing, but suddenly I had space inside me. Enough space not to snap, enough space to respond with patience. That 1 breath saved me from turning a small moment into a big wound. Jon Kabat-Zinn once said, "As long as you are breathing, there is more right with you than wrong with you." And it's true. The breath is always there, waiting to bring us back. When we use it, it becomes the anchor that steadies us in the storm. In a family where emotions rise quickly, 1 mindful breath can change the entire atmosphere. 2. Now is the only time we own now. We Americans love to plan. Our calendars are packed, our reminders ping all day, and we measure success by how much we can squeeze into 24 hours. But the cost of all that planning is that we often miss the only moment we ever truly have, now. My turning point came one Saturday morning when my son asked me to play basketball. My first instinct was to say, maybe later, I have things to do. But I caught myself. I remembered Sharon Salzberg's teaching, mindfulness isn't difficult. What's difficult is to remember to do it. So I said yes. We played, we laughed. We fell on the grass, out of breath, smiling. Later that day, I realized something powerful. I had no memory of the emails I had answered the day before, but I could still feel the warmth of my son's laughter echoing in my heart. The present moment is not just a cliche, it's the only time our loved ones feel our love. Tomorrow's plans and yesterday's regrets are powerless compared to 1 genuine moment of presence. The Buddha himself reminded his students, do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment. When we bring this into family life, it means putting down the phone at dinner. It means looking into our partner's eyes instead of into our screens. It means remembering that love can only be expressed right now, not in some imagined future. 3. Awareness transforms pain. Every family carries pain. Sometimes it's in the form of sharp words spoken long ago. Sometimes it's misunderstandings that were never cleared. Sometimes it's the quiet ache of not feeling seen or heard. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Thich Nhat Hanh often taught, when we acknowledge our suffering, the energy of mindfulness begins to transform it. This doesn't mean pain disappears. It means it no longer controls us. I remember a friend of mine, a father of 3, who told me how angry he used to get when his kids fought at the dinner table. His voice would rise, his words would cut, and the evening would end in silence and hurt. One day, he attended a retreat with Jack Cornfield. Jack told the group, "If your compassion does not include yourself, is incomplete." That struck him. He realized his anger at his kids was really anger at himself, his exhaustion, his stress, his unacknowledged pain. So the next time the kids fought, instead of yelling, he paused and whispered to himself, "This is hard. I'm suffering too." That tiny act of awareness softened him. Instead of exploding, he spoke gently. The kids noticed. The cycle shifted. Awareness is the secret weapon because it gives us choice. Without it, we react automatically. Anger, sarcasm, withdrawal. With it, we see clearly. I'm tired, I'm hurt, I need to breathe before I speak. That clarity doesn't erase pain, but it transforms how we carry it and how we express it. Weaving it together in family life. So how do these 3 keys, breath, now, awareness, actually look in daily family life? Imagine a typical evening. Your child spills juice, your partner forgets something important, your mind is already cluttered with work. Normally, the scene ends in harsh words, slammed doors, cold silence. But with the secret weapon, the pattern shifts. You take one breath, you remind yourself, this moment is all I have. You notice your rising irritation and name it, I am frustrated. Already, the energy is different. Instead of attacking, you respond. Instead of breaking connection, you build it. One mindful breath, one present moment, one act of awareness. These are not small things. They are revolutionary. They are the seeds of a family atmosphere where love outweighs anger, where kindness outweighs criticism. The ripple effect. What's beautiful about this secret weapon is how far its effects travel. Children raised in mindful homes don't just learn words, they learn presence. They learn that when mistakes happen, compassion is stronger than blame. They learn that silence can be healing, not punishing. I've seen kids as young as 5 practice mindful breathing when they're upset. I've heard teenagers tell their parents, "Can we pause and talk about this later?" That's mindfulness in action. That's the ripple effect of a secret weapon passed down not through lectures, but through lived example. And for us adults, the ripple spreads too. When we practice mindful speech at home, we carry it to work, to friends, to strangers. Our words become gentler, our presence calmer. We become the kind of person others feel safe around. A story to remember. There's a story from Thich Nhat Hanh's community about a woman who used to fight with her husband every day. She came to him in tears, saying she couldn't bear it anymore. He taught her a simple practice. Before speaking, take 3 breaths and smile. Just a half smile. At first, she thought it was ridiculous, but she tried. Weeks later, she returned with tears again, this time tears of joy. The arguments had softened. Her husband had noticed her smile, her calmer words, and he began to soften too. The fights aren't gone, she said, but now they don't destroy us. That is the power of the secret weapon. Not to erase conflict, but to transform it. Not to make life perfect, but to make it peaceful enough for love to survive and grow. Bringing it home. So here's the invitation. The next time you feel the urge to snap, pause. Take one mindful breath. The next time you're rushing into tomorrow, remind yourself, now is the only time you own. The next time pain rises, bring awareness to it instead of pushing it away. These are not tricks. They're not complicated philosophies. They are ancient truths made fresh again for our busy modern lives. The Buddha taught them 20,500 years ago. Thich Nhat Hanh, John Kabat-Zinn, Jack Cornfield, Sharon Salzberg, and countless teachers in America remind us of them today. And you don't need to master them all at once. One breath, one present moment, one gentle word, that's enough to begin. Enough to change the way you speak, the way you love, the way your family feels at home. Because in the end, the most powerful secret weapon is not hidden in temples or books. It's hidden in your own breath, your own awareness, your own willingness to choose love over habit. And once you uncover it, you realize the power to create a warm, safe, and loving home has been in your hands all along. We've talked about the hidden enemy, we've seen the turning point, we've uncovered the secret weapon. But here's the truth. All of this is just theory until you feel it in your own body. Words can inspire, but experience transforms. So let's do something unusual. Let's pause. Right here, in the middle of this reading, I want to invite you into a mini experience. You don't need incense, a cushion, or a mountain retreat. All you need is your breath and about 60 seconds of your time. Are you ready? Sit comfortably. Let your shoulders relax. If you feel safe, gently close your eyes. Now take a slow, deep breath in and a gentle breath out. Breathing in, say silently to yourself, I am here. Breathing out, say, I am home. Do that again. Inhale, I am here. Exhale, I am home. Notice the rhythm of your breath. Notice how, for this 1 minute, nothing else is required of you. No deadlines, no arguments, no chores. Just breathing, just being. Now pay attention. What's happening in your body? Maybe your jaw is loosening. Maybe your heart feels a little lighter. Maybe for the first time today, you're not chasing the next thing. You're simply here. Open your eyes gently. Look around the room you're in. What do you see? Maybe sunlight falling across the floor. Maybe a loved one nearby. Maybe just the quiet stillness of your own space. That's it. That's mindfulness. Simple, ordinary, but powerful. Thich Nhat Hanh often guided people with this exact practice. Breathing in, I know I am alive. Breathing out, I smile. It sounds almost childlike, and yet when we try it, we realize how rare it is to simply notice we are alive and smile. When I first tried this, I was skeptical. Could 1 minute really make a difference? But after that first practice, I noticed something strange. My words felt softer for the rest of the evening. When my kids spilled something at dinner, I didn't react as sharply. When my partner spoke, I actually listened, all from 1 mindful minute. Jon Kabat-Zinn calls this proof of concept. You don't have to take anyone's word for it. You feel it yourself. And once you feel even 10 seconds of inner quiet, you know it's real. Here's another mini experience you can try with your family. It's called the 3-breath hug, taught by Thich Nhat Hanh in his Plum Village community. The next time you hug your child, your partner, or even a close friend, don't just hug quickly and move on. Hug for 3 full breaths. Inhale together, exhale together 3 times. While you do, silently say, I'm here for you. The first time I tried this with my daughter, she looked at me with surprise. But after the 3rd breath, she whispered, that felt really good. And I realized, sometimes the most healing thing we can give is not advice, not solutions, but presence. Sharon Salzberg often says, mindfulness is not about getting somewhere else. It's about being where you are and being kind to yourself in that moment. That kindness naturally spills into our speech, our tone, our family interactions. Let me ask you, in those 60 seconds you just practiced, did your mind feel a little quieter? Did you notice a sliver of calm, even if it was brief? If so, imagine what a daily practice of 5 minutes could do. Imagine what 10 minutes could do. Imagine what a family dinner could feel like if everyone took 3 breaths before speaking. That's the invitation of the mini experience. It shows us what's possible. It gives us a taste of peace, so we know we're not chasing a dream, we're building a reality. The Buddha himself taught that practice is the bridge between wisdom and liberation. Reading about mindfulness is like looking at the menu. Practicing mindfulness is like tasting the food. You can read 1,000 words about peace, but until you breathe it, feel it, and live it, it remains an idea. So I encourage you, don't just read this part, try it again right now. 3 breaths. Whisper to yourself, I am here. I am home. Then look at the faces of the people you love. Speak to them from that place of presence. Because that's the real mini experience. Not just breathing alone, but breathing together. Not just quieting the mind, but softening the heart. Not just finding peace for yourself, but offering it to your family through mindful words and actions. And if 1 minute can shift your state, imagine what a lifetime of practice could do. If even 1 minute of mindfulness can bring a little peace, imagine what happens when we weave it into the fabric of our daily lives. Imagine what happens when we stop treating mindfulness as a side hobby and begin seeing it as the foundation of how we live, speak, and love. I'll be honest, I didn't believe this at first. I thought mindfulness was something monks did in monasteries, not something busy parents, workers, or ordinary Americans could practice in the middle of messy lives. But then I began to notice the small shifts. My words softened. My listening deepened. My family started laughing more. Our home felt lighter. That's when it hit me. Mindfulness isn't about escaping life. It's about embracing it. Right here, right now. With the people who matter most. Thich Nhat Hanh used to say, to take care of your family, you must first take care of yourself. At first, I resisted that idea. It felt selfish. But I came to understand, it's not selfish to breathe, to pause, to practice. It's wise. Because when I am calmer, my family feels safer. When I speak with presence, my children feel seen. When I choose silence over sarcasm, my partner feels loved. American teachers like Sharon Salzberg and Jack Kornfield echo this truth again and again. They remind us that the journey of mindfulness begins with us, but it doesn't end there. It ripples outward, shaping every relationship we touch. So here's my invitation to you. Don't wait until stress breaks you. Don't wait until your words wound deeper than you can repair. Don't wait until your home feels like a house of strangers. Begin now. Begin with one breath, one pause, one mindful word. And don't walk this path alone. That's why I created this channel, Mindfulness, not just as a collection of teachings, but as a living community, a place where we remember together, a place where we share stories, practices, and encouragement. Because the truth is, mindfulness is simple, but it's not always easy. We need each other. Think of it this way. If 1 minute of mindful breathing can soften your heart, what could 1 month do? 1 year? An entire lifetime. If pausing before you speak can save one argument, what could it do for your marriage, your children, your future? This is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. It's about choosing presence over distraction, compassion over reactivity, love over habit. It's about transforming your home into a refuge, a place where everyone feels safe, seen, and cherished. I invite you to take this journey with me, not later, not when life slows down, right now, one breath at a time, one word at a time, one day at a time. Because the truth is, peace is not waiting somewhere far away. Peace is here. Peace is in your breath. Peace is in the words you choose today. And peace is always possible, no matter how stormy life feels. So come, let's walk this path together. Let's create families and homes where mindfulness is not a concept, but a lived reality. Let's discover together that mindfulness is not just a practice. It's a way of living, a way of loving, a way of coming home. Do you close your eyes and imagine tomorrow morning? The alarm rings. Normally, your hand reaches for the phone before you're even fully awake. Emails, texts, news, noise, all rushing in like a flood. Before you've even brushed your teeth, yesterday's stress has already claimed today. But not this time. This time, you pause. You place your hand gently on your heart. You take one mindful breath in and one mindful breath out. And then you smile. Not because life is perfect, but because for the first time in a long time, you feel anchored. You feel alive. You feel at home in your own body. You step into the kitchen. The coffee brews. Your family slowly stirs awake. In the past, mornings were filled with rushing. Sharp words, slammed doors, silence that felt heavy. But today, something is different. There is space. There is softness. There is warmth in the air, even if nothing dramatic has changed. This is what mindfulness does. It doesn't erase the chaos of life, it transforms how we move through it. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "Smile, breathe, and go slowly." Such a simple sentence, almost too simple. And yet, when we live it, our entire home changes. The Buddha taught that right speech is the foundation of harmony. And when our words are born from awareness, even the most ordinary phrases, "Good morning," "Dinner's ready," "I hear you," become acts of love. Imagine your child coming home from school, bursting with stories. Normally, your distracted mind might half listen, offering quick nods while scrolling through your phone. But with mindfulness, you put the phone down. You look them in the eyes. You listen, not just with your ears, but with your full presence. That one moment of true listening can plant a seed of self-worth in your child that lasts a lifetime. Imagine your partner, weary after a long day. In the past, your words might have been sharp. "Why are you always so tired?" But now, you pause, breathe, and instead say, "I know today was hard. Thank you for being here." That one mindful sentence can turn exhaustion into connection, distance into closeness. Jack Kornfield often says, "In the end, the spiritual life is not about perfection. It's about presence." And presence is contagious. The more you embody it, the more your family feels it, and the more they reflect it back. One person's calm can calm a whole room. One person's kind word can soften years of hardened silence. And here's the most beautiful part. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment to begin. You don't need to be on retreat or have all your problems solved. You begin right here, in the middle of your messy, imperfect, wonderful life. You begin with one mindful breath. You begin with one gentle word. You begin with the choice to see your home not as a battlefield, but as a garden. Picture this garden. Every word you speak is a seed. Every silence you hold with compassion is like sunlight. Every act of presence is like water. Day by day, your family becomes a living field of love. Not free of weeds, not without storms, but alive, resilient, beautiful. The Buddha said, "With our thoughts we make the world." I would add, with our words we shape our home. And every family deserves a home where words are medicine, not weapons, where silence heals instead of punishes, where presence is more important than perfection. So here is my invitation. Tonight, when you sit with your loved ones, pause, breathe, look into their eyes, and offer them one mindful word. Maybe it's "I love you." Maybe it's "thank you." Maybe it's simply "I'm here." Notice what happens. Watch how even a single word, spoken with awareness, can shift the energy of the entire room. That is the cinematic ending I want you to carry. Not just an image, but a possibility. You don't have to imagine it as a dream. You can live it as reality. And this is why I created mindfulness. Not as a collection of ideas, but as a living practice, a community, a gentle reminder that peace is always possible, that no matter how noisy the world becomes, there is always a place of stillness inside you, and from that stillness, words of love are born. So take this with you. Breathe, smile, go slowly, and remember, your home can be the warmest place in the world if you choose to water it with mindful words. Now pause for 2, maybe 3 seconds. Feel the silence inside you. Let it wrap around you like a blanket. And when you're ready, smile, because peace is already here, and it begins with you.